Welcome to the Lean Blog Podcast. Visit our website at www.leanblog.org. Now, here's your host, Mark Graban.
Hi, this is Mark Graban from the Lean Blog, and welcome to episode number 14 of the podcast. Today is December 28th, 2006, and our guest is Dave Gleditsch, the Chief Technology Officer at Pelion Systems, a software company. But Dave's background is in lean manufacturing, having worked at companies such as American Standard and Hewlett-Packard. Now, not everyone in the lean world loves technology, but Toyota certainly uses technology. As Jeff Liker described in the book The Toyota Way, Toyota uses well-tested technology that supports people and processes as opposed to using technology for technology's sake. So today we have an opportunity to ask Dave his thoughts on that topic and get some ideas about how to properly integrate technology into your lean strategy. Well, Dave, it's great having you here on the podcast with us today. I really appreciate you taking time out and joining us.
It's great to be here.
Well, the first thing we wanted to talk about today, and the thing that kind of brought you to my attention was an excellent piece you wrote for Industry Week. It was called "Manufacturers Must Lean Forward, Not Backward," and there'll be links to that article on the Lean Blog website. And I guess my synopsis of it was that it was written in response to some comments that a U.S. Department of Commerce official made to a group in Michigan, kind of suggesting that lean was only about cutting costs, and that the auto industry had to move beyond cutting costs through Lean and Six Sigma, and we needed to focus on innovation and the global marketplace and all sorts of buzzwords like that. Can you tell me what in hearing that inspired you to write the piece, and what your thoughts were in disagreeing with him?
Sure. Well, obviously, listening to that talk, that was in the auto industry, targeted at largely auto executives up there in Traverse City, Michigan. There's clearly some cost structure problems in the big three auto industry that still need addressing. So number one, cost cutting is still a priority. Though the real issue was, I thought he had a poor definition of what lean really was and where it fit into the landscape. And third, you also talked about, some buzzwords of globalization and innovation. Certainly nobody argues with the need for the big three to innovate more. Mm-hmm. But there are some key elements to lean that are very concrete things that can be done to implement and improve, and they're not nebulous concepts. So, I thought a good time to put a stake in the ground and talk about, from my experience and what I see dealing daily with a whole landscape of customers, lean really means to organizations today. And it's not just cost cutting, though obviously costs are part of it, but doing a lot of work with Lean and Six Sigma, I think one could broadly say that Lean really is about maximizing customer value, mm-hmm. Doing that with the minimum resources required, but importantly to do the job right. I mean, if you look at the 14 Toyota Way principles that a Jeffrey Liker would outline, a pretty good definition of what doing the job right would be. But it really is, at the end of the day, about serving customers.
Right.
And those companies that really focus their entire business and activities on serving customers well, with minimum resources, streamlined process, maximized output, and reduced waste, obviously, but also doing that job right. It applies to cutting costs, but it also applies to growing the business. And I guess that was my personal experience with the American Standard family of companies in the 1980s, where we used Lean and Six Sigma transformation to initially rescue a company that was subject to a hostile takeover. But really, at the end of the day, it was a growth engine for the company as we tripled the sales of the company while tripling inventory turns and doubling productivity. But at the end of the day, it was the top line growth that was of the most value from Lean.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that look at lean from a real traditional business standpoint that's very cost-focused, I guess it's natural that they would gravitate towards viewing lean or anything from that bias of, well, if cost is the most important thing, anything that improves the business must therefore be a cost reduction method, and maybe that's just all that they're looking for. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that's really powerful about lean is that it kind of prompts you to take a little more broader view towards the business metrics and the goal of the organization, focusing on processes, not just on financial numbers.
Absolutely. And if you look at, I had the great opportunity to be working with, the board of directors and being on the staff of the CDO of the company where, lean is a great process and it's a great business methodology, and it is a fantastic, way to manage the culture of the company. But at the end of the day, in the boardroom, you're looking at gross margin expansion. And you can expand gross margins two ways. You can you can grow the top line, and you can shrink the cost component to give a healthier bottom line.
Right.
And Lean and Six Sigma are very effective tools for doing both of those. But you can't always cut costs to prosperity and growth.
Right.
There's investment, there's innovation, there's process excellence, there's serving customers and delighting customers with superior service than your competition to grow market share.
And you mentioned some work, I assume, that you had done at American Standard. I was wondering if you could give us kind of a background of your career path through Lean, or how you were first introduced to Lean concepts.
Yes, I can remember very specifically. It was, I started out my career with General Motors, and I was looking at a brand new 1977 Honda Accord in the Buick executive garage and said, wow, this car has a superior fit and finish to what we're building here at Buick. And that was the first introduction that something was different. And we migrated to some, got involved with some single-minute exchange of dies and some basic kanban techniques while at GM. But really, I spent the bulk of the 1980s with Hewlett-Packard, who at the time were really on the leading edge of Japanese manufacturing techniques. And
right.
We worked directly with Shigeo Shingo, and we built new products designed to flow with kanban techniques. And that's where I got into the application end in not writing software, but developing requirements to support things like Kanban and backflushing, and to eliminate production work orders, which we really didn't need to flow product. It was kind of a bottleneck being caused by those system requirements. Of course, then the 1990s, as I mentioned, I spent with the American Standard family of companies, and we did Lean and Six Sigma transformation across 85 plants in 35 countries and 4 major divisions, and lots of a variety of businesses, everything from commercial air conditioners for skyscrapers to truck braking systems to making toilets and brass faucets. But Lean and Six Sigma principles applied directly to all those businesses.
I apologize. I don't know if you heard the doorbell, and I don't know if this counts as overproduction, but a contractor who was supposed to be here tomorrow decided to show up today, which I guess is fine other than the interruption. And I didn't want to interrupt you, so actually I apologize. It's very rude of me. Actually, I stepped away for a minute while you're in the middle of your story. Can you kind of catch me up? Real quick, just so we can kind of try to transition.
I talked about it. Do you want to record it, or do you just want me to catch up?
Did you get to work with Shingo directly?
Yes. What we did at HP, I was in a plant in northern Colorado, which we had plants in Fort Collins, Greeley, and Loveland, Colorado, as well as south of there in Colorado Springs. Uh-huh. And HP developed a just-in-time consortium of those plants, and that's where we brought folks like Shigeo Shingo, Schonberger, Robert Hall in, lots of lectures, seminars, a variety of our version of a Kaizen event, going to different plants and doing re-engineering. Many people remember an old styrofoam block video that was done at HP, kind of showing eliminating waste and the sins of overproduction and how to deploy a pull system. Well, that was all going on at HP at the time, and we were trying to figure out what, and in many ways decipher what some of the pure techniques were, using the old green book from Shingo on the Toyota production system. And of course those texts were updated and then supplemented, obviously, initially with the likes of Schonberger and Hall. Zero Inventory was a very important book at the time, and we were doing some things in factories in concert with Apex as well, was supporting a lot of the effort, and so kind of had some leading edge just-in-time manufacturing taking place in those 4 plants in Colorado.
Well, that was certainly quite the all-star team to have assembled at that time. I'm sure it was exciting working with them. Going to ask him, do you have any stories of working with Shingo? Mostly
what we were doing was, eliciting knowledge. We had roundtable discussions and some seminars with him. We didn't do the kind of hands-on Kaizen with Shingo that it evolved to more in the 80s, where they were walking the floor and doing some of these. This was more of a lecture and a roundtable discussion. So
sure. And so it's interesting to me. I mean, you've seen Lean in a lot of different industries, and I'm sure that's helped see what the common threads are that aren't necessarily auto industry specific, or kind of Lean from a more conceptual level. Would you say that that's the case?
Yes, absolutely. And not only, well, I think, and again, American Standard is a perfect example in that we had everything from just-in-time daily deliveries in Europe with Westinghouse Air Brake Company to Mercedes-Benz or Scania and Volvo of truck brake systems, kind of a repetitive model, to high-mix seasonal manufacturing in the Trane Air Conditioning Company, making residential air conditioners. Some were air conditioners with optional heat pumps, and by the way, 60% of the sales volume occurred in a 2 or 3 month period. So you had a big seasonal swing on air conditioners, and look out, here comes furnaces for the winter. So, kind of medium volume, high mixed in the residential air conditioning business. Then let's go over to Trane Commercial, where you're building chillers at 5 to 7 a day, large conference room size pieces of equipment that go in the basement or the roof of a skyscraper, highly configured to order, to making toilets. So in that company, there were a whole variety of different processes, different cultures, 35 countries around the world manufacturing processes. But Lean really gave us a common manufacturing language. It really gave us a dedication to process. It really enabled us to always have a focus on customer requirements and pulling through the process based on customer demand, whether you were making a configured-to-order product or a high-volume product that had some inventory in the pipeline. We would replenish the demand. We wouldn't build the schedule or build the forecast. We'd still do some demand replenishment, even though there were inventory through the pipeline.
Sure.
But that dedication to process, as an example, led us, the U.S. plumbing products largest customer emerged in the 80s as Home Depot. And not only did we have to supply them product, but, funny thing kind of happened as the big box retailers grew. They were opening 2.5 stores a week at one point in our life cycle with Home Depot. Go back to mapping processes and designing the flow of information, material, and products to meet customer requirements. We developed a store opening process for Home Depot that led them to embrace American Standard as, the Golden Hammer Supplier of the Year 2 years in a row, because not only did we supply them product, but we use Lean and Six Sigma to reduce variation and delight their buyers with the kind of service we gave, not only in supplying product but in opening stores.
Yeah, so there's a perfect example of how it wasn't only about cutting costs. Lean was really opening doors and creating new business. It sounds like that's really a great example. I wanted to transition a little bit into what you're doing currently. If you could tell us briefly about Pelion Systems, where you work currently, how your Lean experience has kind of transitioned into what you're doing now, and what it is that Pelion is doing within the Lean world.
Sure. Pelion provides both point applications or individual workbenches to provide tools for Lean transformation and management. We also have a Lean manufacturing operating system, a highly integrated system bolted on to existing ERP and supply chain management capability. And then we also provide consulting directly with our Lean masters, as well as with different education partners and implementation partners. And at the end of the day, the combination of those services, we hope to really enable customers' teams to not just be doing Lean, but actually running and living a Lean capability in their business. And there is a technology component to what we do, and kind of where that came from. At American Standard, we recognized to really bring all 85 plants up to the same high level of performance, we needed standard work in our technology to support Lean and Six Sigma. We developed technology for Six Sigma data collection all across the company. We developed high Junker level loading and demand smoothing technology to drive some of the kinds of seasonal management problems I mentioned at Train Residential before. And we used technology for standard work for sequence of events, change management, and so forth. And we invested significant effort and money into technology, because it was the only way we could take that global company to the kind of sustaining the great things we had already accomplished, and kind of getting the next 50%, if you will, the second half of our bottom line Lean improvements.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I mentioned at HP, we built application functionality to enable things that were missing in our systems, to do kanban, to do back flushing, and to eliminate production orders and work orders that we really didn't need to move product. Our signaling systems on the floor were doing it. So, so over time, I realized in my direct involvement with Lean that technology had a role to play. Pelion was founded in '96 as an enterprise application company. As they came to market in the late '90s with that product, that space was somewhat crowded, and the founder said, if we could layer a meaningful business application on top of this toolkit that by its nature required lots of integration, maybe we'd have something. And Ken Stone really felt that Lean manufacturing more and more would be a supply chain execution methodology of choice for more and more manufacturers. So the company embarked on building Lean manufacturing capability and taking advantage of the emerging internet collaboration technologies.
Sure.
So in 2000, we introduced the first electronic Kanban web portal in the world. In 2001, we came out with our kind of first Pelion 1.0 that had both Lean engineering to define and design factories. Then we emerged with Demand Manager to do high Junker scheduling and Lean scheduling, as well as electronic Kanban, and then improved capability to support the continuous improvement process. So, sure. At the end of the day, what business problem are we solving? I kind of see three types of companies out there today. If you look at Toyota and the Toyota production system, they've really been at this for 50 years. Lean is baked into the genetic code at all levels of the organization at Toyota. And companies today that aren't leveraging a Lean asset still have some implementation or or extension of lean capability to go. They maybe don't have the time to do all of the kinds of genetic modifications that Toyota did. Or you can look at a Dell computer. Dell computer designed a fundamental business model that was lean from the ground up. So day one, that company was built with a dedication to process and a lean thought process.
Yeah, I used to work at Dell, and you're right. I mean, they have a very specific DNA that their whole business is built around that direct selling business model, which is a very unique thing. I mean, it's different in a lot of ways from Toyota Production System, but it's similar in the sense that it's really hard for their competitors to copy, because something is either really ingrained versus something you're trying to change to the way the current day HP, Compaq, and different Dell competitors struggle with.
Right, and so we see a role of technology, and can it answer some of those questions? Can technology further enable and accelerate culture change? Can technology provide rapid ways to significantly change and migrate processes, though we may not be able to redesign the fundamental business model? Can we, with agility and effective risk management, drive the kind of change that an IBM or an HP would need to compete with a Dell business model? Or for companies that find a significant gap against a competitor, use the American Standard example with a hostile takeover. Can we respond more rapidly with technology than without technology to some external factors? And that's really some of the types of things that we try to support with technology, as well as the fundamental two things that don't change, and that is that change is a constant in business, and lean is not a one-time event where you do lean and then you move on to the next program. So as an example, Brooks Automation was a customer of ours. It was a great lean company, had all kinds of kanban permeated all through the company, which I see as a real significant key to the difference between somebody that's doing lean and somebody that's really running lean. Do they really have pull production baked across the whole organization? Well, they had gone about as far as they could with their spreadsheets and using Glovia ERP to manage some of that. They brought a Pelion in for our electronic and Kanban management tools, and a very lean company within 12 months was able to reduce inventories 25% across the company and better respond to changing demands.
That's great.
So even though they had lots of capability in place, technology enabled them to take it to the next level.
So
it's why we built demand planning capability for Trane air conditioning. Talk about Clarksville, Tennessee, our largest light to medium commercial air conditioning plant in the world, huge campus. We had completely moved from a push conveyance system to pull production with visible signaling systems, but we had 250 people tied to a production line. And without some of the demand planning and resource planning analytics in a highly mixed model environment, we continued to fall back to worst-case staffing levels. We didn't really push the envelope on productivity until we had the demand planning engine that really could show the kind of resource levels and where the right place to staff was against mix. Then we were able to really liberate some of the productivity. It was a $3 million a year savings. And just weren't able to do it without the technology.
Yeah, and it sounds like an example of, instead of viewing lean as an isolated tool in a department, they started looking at lean as a method for running the business, not just manufacturing, but demand, sales, different pieces of the company that interact with each other, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's, again, one of the areas for where technology can help. Creating you talk about, production always says, well, sales always gives us bad information, and sales always says, well, production can't ever ask us the right questions, or they look at things in a different slice of the world than we do. We're looking at families of products, they're looking at SKUs and so forth. Technology can kind of provide some concrete tools for dialogue and ways to enable that conversation to happen. Whether you're looking out at putting in new plant and equipment, or whether you're looking at running the plant today and sizing inventory, or whether you're looking at doing some advanced sales and operations planning for next year, technology can use that knowledge you've gained from your lean activities and bring sales and production together is a perfect example.
Sure. And you talk about the role of technology. You mentioned the Toyota Way and Jeff Leiker and the 14 principles of the Toyota Way. One of those I wanted to ask you about. Principle 8 talks about technology, and that point is to only use reliable, thoroughly tested technology that serves your people and processes. And the thing I wanted to ask you about was in the lean world, kind of notoriously anti-technology. A lot of that coming from, I think, Toyota developing their system in an era where there weren't a lot of tools available, or, classic MRP was the only tool available. But do you think, did it help? I think the Leiker book helped illustrate to people that Toyota does use technology, but they try to be, pretty smart about it. And, as that point says, use it to support people, to support business processes. Has that mindset shifted, do you think, within the lean world? Is it helping Pelion find people that will let you approach them to even talk about technology instead of just blindly saying, well, if we're doing lean, technology is bad?
Well, it's an excellent discussion topic. There's still a range of positions on that. Clearly. I think one of the, fundamental reasons why lean and Toyota production system techniques have been effective is that, they involve people, they involve the entire organization. They're very tactile and hands-on approaches. Go and see, don't make assumptions until you've actually gone out and touched the process and understood, exactly what's going on out there. All of those are critical reasons why the methods are successful against others that, the plant manager or the CEO says, hey, I think this is a great idea. You guys go implement this and come back and tell me when you're done, is a lot different than when the CEO and the vice presidents and the management team roll up their sleeves and jump into the trench with everybody and experience together. That being said, that technology really is not an inhibitor to those types of concepts. Technology can be an accelerant, as well as technology is often necessary in today's complex businesses with high rates of change, with demand changes, product life cycles decreasing, suppliers, transitioning from, outsourcing from a vertically integrated business to spreading that more out across the supply chain and supply chain partners. I mean, there's so much change out there that companies have found that, if I don't integrate my technology effectively with these lean and Toyota production system concepts, I can't manage change. I can't anticipate next year. I can't deploy standards effectively across a broad enterprise because I've got, everybody kind of doing things somewhat, from their own experience, and it may miss on economy. So there are definitely places where technology can help. The problem is that, and the benefit of, your principle 8, use reliably, thoroughly tested technology that serves people and processes. The experimentation is important, proof of concept, and then growing from, it's why I think more and more software companies today have very flexible, modular solutions that can be deployed. You can dip your feet in the water. You don't have to buy the whole $100 million enchilada and try and swallow the elephant in one bite,
Sure.
like we tried to do with a lot of the ERP rollouts in the 90s, right? So I think software companies are being more flexible and agile, just as the production processes and supply chain processes that they serve, so that you can test these things. Everybody that we talk to, wants solid customer references. Go take me to another plant that's doing this. So, people are looking for thoroughly tested technology.
Sure.
With that, there's a lot of people that are starting to embrace technology.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned, ERP, and, I think maybe one challenge I would imagine for a software company is that people in a lot of companies have to some extent been burned by software in the past, or promises that, whether it was MRP or MRP2 or ERP or, APS and advanced supply chain solutions, it seems like there's always something new that's out that, is making up for the problems in the previous generation. And I'm by no means singling out Pelion for this. It's a question I would ask any software software vendor. But is it difficult to kind of come to people who maybe have some scars, about the promises of technology? And maybe the last part of the question, realizing it's kind of a multi-part question. One of the things that's brought up quite often on the blog by myself and some others, it's kind of our pet peeves about software marketing, that it seems like a lot of software vendors kind of promise a magic bullet solution in regards to lean or other business problems that, if you only had this piece of software, everything would be solved. And, I think, partly shame on the customers that, that might be susceptible to that may be looking for a magic bullet instead of really, working on their processes internally. But, what are your views on those challenges?
Right, and it would be great if it were simply, you could pull out a check sheet, click on the right boxes, push a button, and there was a software solution that magically, transformed us from traditional manufacturing to lean, then loaded everything up and let us run that way. And by the way, was already rapidly at work at our next Kaizen improvement technologies, and that silver bullet simply doesn't exist. However, because that silver bullet doesn't exist, that doesn't mean that the technology is not a definite enabling technology or an accelerator, or in many cases required to deal with some of the complex problems that are out there that lean on the back of an envelope just really isn't going to deal effectively with. Yes, there's a tremendous amount of war stories and scars on CIOs and IT managers' backs from poorly conceived technology rollouts, as well as poorly managed technology rollouts. We had a very expensive ERP transformation at American Standard during the 90s, and that wasn't all the fault of the ERP supplier. A lot of people have tried to hire consultants to come in and design your business processes, configure your systems, and implement it. Well, they don't know anything about the business. Technology tools are there to enable the subject matter experts and the people that do the critical work in the process to do it better tomorrow than they did it today, to vision ways that they can even do it better next month and next quarter, and then to provide a bridge and a path for them to implement those changes predictably, without wandering, and with managing risks of change, but pretty consistently, so that you do progress and you don't wander. So it is a difficult balancing act, but I think that what you'll see more and more in technology providers is just as Pelion. We have a very modular, menu of applications that you can pick and choose to, if it's electronic kanban that you're at the next phase of development, you want to do that. Well, we can, we can package a targeted solution for that, or if it's line design or lean engineering, you can just pick that piece up, or if you got some things going and you just want to do some Hijunka level loading on your schedule, well, you can pick that piece out and run with that. Ideally, we'd love everybody to say, boy, you guys are so smart at Pelion, you got all this figured out, give me everything today and I'll roll it out immediately. But at the end of the day, nobody does that. However, building from a base, getting really good, implementing it, testing it, integrating it into the organization, people then build more capability as it meets their needs. That's just the software game today.
Yeah. So it's your view that software industry has progressed and is learning from some of the mistakes, not just in the way software is designed, but the rollout and the implementation of software and business processes, right?
More and more companies clearly have evolved. And secondly, I would also say that, Mark, that, at Pelion, we don't do anything without, clearly defined project charter with some clear metrics, and 9 times out of 10, a clear and compelling bottom line cash and profit improvement focus to each major element of a project or program. So such that companies don't spend a long period of time kind of boiling an ocean and doing things that seem good, but the financial champions of the company don't stand up and say, this is compelling to our top line and our bottom line, because I can connect the dots with it. So I think that's a difference too. More and more companies are offering, guarantees or fixed time to the, performance delivery and those types of things.
Yeah, it sounds like companies that are looking at software aren't having to swing for the fences anymore with that, $100 million, one shot, that they're able to kind of take things in a more progressive, step at a time type approach, which I'm sure is helpful. Yeah. Okay. Well, Dave, I really want to thank you for being here today and sharing some of your experiences with Lean and some insights into the world of technology applied to Lean. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Mark, and I've enjoyed our discussion.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Lean Blog Podcast. For Lean news and commentary updated daily, visit www.leanblog.org. If you have any questions or comments about this podcast, email Mark at leanpodcast@gmail.com.